I've been a database person for almost my whole technology career. In that time, as an instructor, I've coined a few sayings that I feel help crystallize things that we need to know. One of those is that there is a difference between data and information. Data is just stuff, but it doesn't mean anything. Once we put data in context and give it meaning, it becomes information. Information is useful. If you recall, SharePoint is, in all its splendor, really nothing more than a database on the back end with a nice pretty web page on the front end. Now don't worry, I'm not being critical here. That's exactly what SharePoint is, with a whole lot of cool functionality built in between. Regardless, we work with others, all of whom put data into SharePoint. Notice I use the word data, and I did so purposefully. In order for each one of us, in turn, to use that data and make it something that's useful, which is information, it has to be put into a context that makes it make sense to us. Two of the most common ways to do that is to use sorting and filtering. Sorting and filtering can take place at the server level. It can also be configured as a list setting and even be part of a view. Here, we want to look at how we can do something known as ad hoc sorting and filtering, which simply means it's quick, easy, and temporary. You might also hear it referred to as dynamic or in-column sorting and filtering. Now, if you've ever used autofilters in Excel, you'll see the common hand of Microsoft at work immediately. If you've never sorted or filtered before, have no fear. It's just a matter of making selections from drop-down lists. Now let's start with sorting. Sorting means to order the list items according to some criteria. By default, the items in a list just show up whatever order they're entered in, which doesn't always make any sense. So when we want to begin sorting, we're going to move to the columns at the top of the list. For example, if we wanted to sort this list by who each task was assigned to, we can pause over that column. Notice it immediately displays a drop-down arrow. When we click or tap on this drop-down, we can see the sorting options at the very top. Now, sometimes you might see that this column cannot be sorted, but fortunately, SharePoint is always nice enough to tell us that. And I like that because it means we don't have to worry about all of the intricacies and technicalities. It'll tell us if we're trying to do something that we can't do. Okay, so we can't sort by that column. That's okay. Let's sort by task name. This is a text field. If we click on the drop-down, we will see that we can sort either in ascending or descending order. Ascending meaning alphabetical, and descending meaning in reverse alphabetical, or Z to A. We'll go ahead and click on ascending. And if we look carefully at the list, it used to start with a couple of items that were already marked complete. Now those have been moved down, and it's in alphabetical order. Create comes before the second create, comes before define, comes before formulate. If we look carefully at the column name again, you'll also see an up-pointing arrow. This tells us that currently the list is sorted ascending by this column. If we click on the drop-down arrow and choose descending, we'll see that the order flips around, and our little arrow indicator also is now going in the opposite direction. If we take a look at the sort options for due date, we'll see that we again have ascending and descending, and if we click one or the other, it will sort this time by the due date and again give us our visual indicator at the top of the list. You don't ever have to remove a sort order. You just wait until you need to sort by some other criteria and then sort the list by that column. The new sort order will replace the old one. This makes it very fast and very easy to sort lists according to any variety of criteria you may have. And I know as I work throughout a day, I need to see things in a variety of ways. For example, if I'm looking at a student list, I might first want to see it alphabetical by last name because I'm looking for somebody in particular. Then I might want to sort it by the company they work for. Then maybe I want to sort it by the last date that they took a class. I can do all of those with simply a click. Now, let's talk about filtering. Filtering is almost as easy as sorting. You're still going to display the column for which you want to filter. So let's say now that we are going to use that assigned to field. But this time, instead of sorting, we're going to filter by it. We start off exactly the same way, though, by moving over the column and displaying the drop-down. What SharePoint does is it takes a look at all of the values in that column. In other words, all of the values in that field, and it makes a simple list. Each value that's in the list will show up one time. Each of those values has a checkbox. If you put a check mark to the left of one of the values, that value will be displayed. Anything that you do not put a check next to will be hidden. So if I wanted to see everything for Aaron Olson, I would place a check mark there. and then somehow just click off of that dropdown. And now you can see that the only tasks that are left in the list are the ones that are assigned to Aaron. If I then wanted to see everything assigned to Michael, I click on the dropdown, remove the check mark from Aaron, add a check mark to Michael, make that disappear by either pressing escape or clicking off of it, and now we're seeing Michael's tasks. Just like we had with sorting, notice that filtering also has a visual indicator. In this case, it shows a little funnel. You actually can click that funnel to display the list again, but unlike sorting, you do need to remove a filter. What you'll see at the top is an option that simply says Clear Filters From, and then the name of the field. In this case, Clear Filters From Assigned To. That's the equivalent of going through the entire list and removing all of the check marks. It's just a little bit faster sometimes. My recommendation is that you always remove filters when you're done using a list. That way you don't accidentally leave them on and wonder why all of a sudden you're missing some records. Filtering is something people need to do more often, in my not-so-humble opinion. There's nothing wrong with our data, but we rarely need to see all of our records all of the time. It's always easier to work with the smallest data set possible. So if we can filter out the items we're not interested in at the moment, our work gets easier. I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for ways to make work easier, especially when it's just a matter of placing a few checkboxes like it is filtering and sorting data. What you now know is that sorting and filtering can be accomplished in many places in SharePoint. At the server, using list settings from predefined public or personal views, and via temporary ad hoc sorting and filtering by users, which is what we did. Sorting means to reorder the list items according to values in a column. Filtering means to temporarily hide items that don't meet our criteria for that column value. Both are accomplished using the in-column dropdowns of the list. A small arrow designates a sort has been applied to a specific column. A small funnel designates a filter has been applied to that column. Sorting can just be left until another one is applied, but it's a good idea to remove filters when you're finished with them in order to show all of the records and prevent confusion if someone doesn't see what they're expecting to see. There's nothing to be ashamed of when you learn how to work smarter, not harder, and using these ad hoc filters and sorts is something that can help us easily turn our clunky, cumbersome data lists into useful information with just a few simple clicks of the mouse.